I built a life that looked complete from the outside, but inside I was still standing in the cold, moving forward, working and smiling when I should have been learning how to stay. And by the time I finally understood what my heart was asking for, it felt like I had already missed the moment that mattered most. And maybe that is the part I have never forgiven myself for, not losing everything, but becoming ready too late. I almost didn't say this, but you deserve the truth, even if it arrives softly, even if it trembles. I don't know why you came into my life when you did, or why your presence felt like something my soul recognized before my mind did, but when I think of you, I feel the ache of a man who has lived long enough to understand the cost of silence. And I wonder if you have ever loved someone so quietly that your whole life changed before you were brave enough to admit it. Because if you are still here, I would give you the part of me that never learned how to leave. I am tired in a way that sleep has never been able to fix, not the kind that shows on the body, but the kind that settles deep in the chest, where even breathing feels like remembering something I tried to forget, and I am not a young man anymore. I have built things, lost things, stood in rooms where people applauded while I felt nothing but distance. And still, something inside me will not let me stay silent anymore. There were nights I sat in a quiet kitchen, the light too dim, the air too still, the div too still, staring at a cup of coffee, gone cold, feeling something almost reach me like warmth brushing past, but never staying. And I once thought that was peace, but now I know it was absence. I remember a night when rain hit the windows endlessly and your message sat unread on my phone while my hands refused to move. Not because I didn't care, but because I cared in a way I didn't yet understand. And that fear was stronger than the fear of losing you. I was afraid of what it meant to be seen by you, not the composed version of myself, but the one who carried silence like a second skin and didn't know how to stay when something real began to grow, so I waited, and in that waiting, something slipped away. I remember the quiet sound of the door closing, the moment everything asked me to be different, and I wasn't. And that silence followed me into every success afterward, into every handshake, every celebration, every night that should have felt real but didn't, because winning without you felt like losing in slow motion. My home began to feel like a place I was only visiting, the rooms empty, the bed too wide. And I kept asking myself whether I was always meant to arrive too late to my own life. And I thought about the way you used to look at me quietly, as if you understood something beneath my words. And maybe that is why I pulled away, because you didn't ask for anything, and somehow that made everything feel more real. I didn't leave because I didn't love you. I stepped back because I didn't know how to hold something that gentle without damaging it. And that truth settled into a quiet shame, showing up in small ways, in hesitation, in avoidance, in the tightening of my chest whenever something felt too close to what I lost. Because deep down, I knew I wasn't abandoned. I was simply unready. That realization came slowly, in pieces, until one night I understood that even if you had returned, I wouldn't have known how to meet you differently. And that broke me, not because you left, but because I hadn't changed. I was afraid I would ruin you with my silence, my distance, my way of loving, without showing it. So I chose a safer kind of loss and called it timing, but it was never timing, it was me. As I grew older, my excuses disappeared and patterns became clear, and I finally faced the truth that I didn't know how to stay. When love asked me to be present, and now I do, but you are no longer here. And that kind of timing feels almost cruel, like understanding arriving just after the chance is gone. Still, something in me feels unfinished, like maybe the story did not end where I thought it did. And even though I don't know if I believe in second chances. I do believe some connections never disappear. They wait quietly in memory and in the parts of you that never moved on. And when I think of you now, it feels less like regret and more like a soft question I don't rush to answer. If I ever stand in front of you again, I won't be the man who stayed silent or needed more time. But even then, I hesitate because I know the cost of getting it wrong twice. So I remain here between what was and what could still be, holding your memory gently, not reaching, not letting go, just waiting in a life that still feels a little too quiet. I have learned that silence is not always safe, that sometimes it is where everything you should have said disappears. And in trying to protect both of us, I only created a distance that grew too wide to close. And I remember how your presence once made everything feel warmer, steadier, more real. And that terrified me because I had spent my life learning how not to need anyone, and then you made me feel something I didn't know how to hold. You didn't ask me to change, but you made it impossible for me to stay the same. And I remember moments where I looked away, not because I didn't feel anything, but because I felt too much. And I wish I could return to those moments just to stay, just to let you see me before I disappeared again. But life doesn't return those chances. It only leaves you with their meaning. I didn't know how to speak without feeling exposed, and exposure felt like risk, and risk felt like loss. So I chose silence again, and silence chose for me, leaving me with the loneliness that doesn't come from being alone, but from knowing there was someone who understood me. And I let that connection fade. I thought I had more time, but time doesn't wait for readiness. And I was behind in every way that mattered. And the truth I could no longer hide was that I didn't feel worthy of what you saw in me. So instead of growing into it, I stepped away from it, quietly changing the direction of my life. I sabotaged something real because I didn't trust myself to keep it. And now I see love differently, not as something overwhelming, but as something gentle and steady that asks for presence more than perfection. And it's understanding that after losing, you feels like learning to breathe in a room with no air. Still, I hold on to the belief that what we had was not accidental, that it came into my life not just to show me what I lacked, but what I could become. And even though I don't know where you are or who you've become, I know that if life ever brings you back, I won't hide, I won't wait, I won't let fear decide again, yet I also accept that not everything we understand returns to us, and some things simply become part of who we are. A lesson, a memory, a quiet ache that never fully leaves. So I stand here now in a life that still feels too quiet. Holding on to a version of love I didn't fully understand when it was in front of me, not reaching, not expecting. Just aware of what I lost and what I learned. And even now, I can feel that version of myself standing there, looking at you, silent, unmoving, losing you without a word. And that image does not fade. It stays like a door that never fully closed, or maybe one I never had the courage to walk through.